Hello, welcome back to Online Lessons with Sheila and Denon. Woohoo! Woohoo! So last week we learned Over the Waterfall, the melody. Hopefully you did, if you did your homework. And this week we're going to go into greater detail. We are going to explore the chords behind Over the Waterfall. There's a lot of times we play melodic instruments, right? These instruments were designed to play melodies. And so it's hard for us when we don't have the melody. So what do you do when you don't have the melody? How do you support someone else who might be taking a solo? How do you support someone who's playing the melody and you are playing underneath them? You want to make them sound good, right? It's really tricky. It's a little bit difficult, but we'll talk through some theory behind how to do it and hopefully make sense of it. First things first, we're going to play the melody 3 times together once, and then I'll take the backup so you'll hear what it sounds like on the violin. This works for viola as well. You'll hear what it sounds like on the violin to back somebody up following this chord progression, which we'll go over in a second, which is also in the description below, hopefully, it will be. And then the third time, Sheila will take then I'll take the melody and Sheila will take the chords, and you'll see how the cello backs it up. All right.
And that would work for probably bass players too.
Yes. Together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, ready. Lovely. Okay, great. So you heard some different things there. We're going to break it down into what we do with our right hand and what we do with our left hand, because we have to know how to follow the chord progression. We have to know how to build these chords before we even worry about the rhythmic aspect that comes with our right hand. So here and on your description below is written out the chord chart. If you haven't seen a chord chart written in this way before, your dash represents 1 beat and your letter represents 1 beat. So if I were to say, oh yeah, here we go.
Should be able to really, whoops.
So it would be a D, D, G, D, 2, 3, 4, D, A, D, 2, 3, 4, D, G, D, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, repeat, D, G, D, 2, 3, 4, D, A, D, 2, 3, 4, D, G, D, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4. So we're obviously in 4/4. It's almost as if you were to break this out into quarter notes, right? This is 2 quarter notes. That's 2 quarter notes. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter notes. 2 quarter notes. 2 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter notes. You can kind of feel the pattern in that way. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a bit how the phrases go. So, before we move any further, if you see a chord chart like that and you want to just play the note written, you absolutely can. Sheila, would you maybe play just a simple version of the chord progression while I play the melody? Just playing, we call that the root note. So if I'm playing a D chord, that's made up of multiple notes, right? Chord is multiple notes. You play mandolin like this. There's your D chord. I'm hitting 4 notes, an A, D, A, and F sharp. But if you want to play just the root of that, you can just play the D. Let's move it back so we can see your pretty face and your fingers.
My pretty face is on. All right.
Okay, so she's going to play simply just the root, which is going to be a nice... You've got lots of open strings, right? You've got open D, open G, open D, open D, open A, or even an open C string on the cello and viola. She doesn't want to do that. You don't have to. Just heads up, you are free to play open strings. Traditionally, when you're supporting somebody, the lower the register, the better, because that steals less focus from the melody, which is nice on the cello because you're super low already. So, we'll just do 1A part.
So you only want me to play the bass note?
Just play the root note. Yeah, totally. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, not so bad, right? Easy peasy when you play the root notes, and that's totally fine. You want to just hold each note for half note, whole note, half note, whole note, half note, whole note, whole note. That's totally fine. If you want to do simple rhythms for now, we're working with our left hand before we even think about our right hand. So, the B part is even simpler. D, G, D, D, A, D, and you do that 4 times, right? Easy peasy. Repetition is our friend. Woohoo!
Yes.
We're going to play the B part same way that we just did. I'll play the melody, she'll play the chords, then I'll jump in on the chords the second time. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wait, say that again? What am I doing?
Chords.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. 1, 2, ready. Sorry, my bad. 1, 2, ready, and... Yeah, nice.
Sorry, you were just doing the B part.
I was doing
got
the B
lost.
part. My bad.
I messed that up, sorry.
No, it's my fault. I should have clarified a little bit more. The B part, you'll notice, is the exact same as the first 4 measures of the A part. You just repeat the first 4 measures of the A part 4 times. Don't go to that C and G at the end. Very, very similar. So, if you need to pause and rewind and review any of that, that's fine. Hopefully, we're moving and cruising a little bit. Hopefully you have that chord progression under your fingers. Now we need to talk about how to build a chord. You use the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. I know I've talked about this with a lot of students. It's going to be review for some people, but not for others. So, to do that, we'll do an A major chord first. It's nice and simple. Your 1 is your A. Then you count down the alphabet 2 more, A, B, C. We've got a C sharp in the A major chord. I'm not going to go into why, but the 3rd is what defines it as a major or minor chord. C sharp, A is the 1, B, C sharp is the 3, D, E is the 5. A, C sharp, E, right? 1, 3, 5. So we're built in fifths. A really easy A chord is just putting your first finger on the G string and the D string and playing an A and an E. That works for violin, violas, and cellos. totally. Other A chord that's easy is you could do an E on your first finger and an open A. Yeah, that works for all three instruments as well. Beautiful. Watch your intonation on these. It's going to be real nasty sounding if you're chords. This is why when we play scales in class so much, we do them in canon, because you can hear the harmonies a lot better and you can recognize when a chord is out of tune a lot easier than recognizing when an individual note is out of tune. All right, so for our D chord, I'm just going to walk you through the chords that I'm going to use. We're going to work primarily on our lowest strings if we can, right, to make our lives a little bit easier. So for a D chord, our 1, 3, and 5 is D, E, F sharp, G, A. So I'm going to use the 1 and the 5 for that. I'm going to use a first finger A string on the G string and an open D. It's going to sound like this. Perfect. For our G chord, you can use an octave G. Our chord is G, B, and D, right? 1, 3, 5. You can use an octave G. That's a nice one. You can also put your second finger down on the G string. But let's just keep it simple. Let's just use an octave G for that one. So it's going to be third finger on the D string and an open G for violas and violins, and fourth finger on the D string and open G for cellos. Sounds like this. Yes, 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 yes. A we already talked about. We're barring that first finger on the A, and when I say barring, that means I'm putting the first finger down on the G string and the E string. So that's going to be a first finger A on the G string and a first finger E on the D string. Yes, yes, yes. Easy peasy. Only one more chord. C chord. First is C. The third is E. The fifth is G. And that's a little quicker than I would do it in class, but that's okay. So for that, we're going to use a third finger on the G string, fourth finger for cellos, and a first finger on the D string to get a C and an E.
That sounds awful.
Or you could do an octave C on the cello, or you could just, yeah, that's nice. Or you could do a C and a B on the open C and then a second finger on
I would do open C and open D.
Oh, yeah.
Open C and open G.
Oh my gosh, easy peasy. There you go. So you get a lot of those guys. You can, since our instrument is tuned in fifths, playing chords a lot of times is really easy because you can just play open fifths right there. So Sheila's got a C string. I don't. Her C chord's going to be even cooler than mine because she can just, like she said, play a C and a G, which I totally was thinking violin. So nice job.
Well, I would, honestly, on the cello, I would do all those chords differently. Because the D, I would go clear down to my bottom string and play a D. And then to get my A in there, I can do a bar, hold down this finger. It's a D and an A. Works for A chords and D chords. But anyway, that would be my D chord. And then my G chord, I'm using my two middle strings and just playing them. It's a D and a G, which works for G chord.
That also works for violin.
And then I'm going back to my, and then to play the A chord, I'm doing these two. It's a low A and your E, which I think is way quicker to get to. However, experiment with both so that you learn how to do the upper chords as well as the lower. So if you're on a cello, I would say try to do his chords that he just taught and learn these upper chords. But boy, it's really fun to go down on the cello and play these low notes, low chords.
Yeah, eventually if you can learn how to play chords on all four of your strings, you can play chords and percussion kind of at once. Because your higher strings gives you kind of like that kick sound, as if you were a drum set, or like snare almost. But you gotta know how to play the chords with 4 fingers. Alright, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, hopefully you have figured out one form of a double stop, one form of a chord, because that's what double stops are, right? Chords are just multiple notes played at once in harmony. So, we're gonna try and play through this progression using double stops just with half notes, right? So each time we play a note, we're gonna hold it for 2 beats because we're focusing still on our left hand, nothing with the rhythm yet. So let's try and play through just the chords of the A part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, ready, and 2. Yeah, not bad, right? Okay, so let's take the A part. Let's try with the B part, actually, real quick before we move on. Same thing, B part. Still experimenting with the chords. Remember, it's just the first 4 bars of the A part repeated. 1, 2, ready. Nice, easy peasy, hopefully. Now, we can start talking about different things to do with our right hand. One thing that you can do nice and easy is kind of just a straight 8th notes, but accented a little bit. So I'm using lots of wrist and fingers there, and I'm keeping it really loose, and you can hear I'm hearing the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Emphasize the 2 and the 4, yes? Try that once with, let's do it on the A part. Any advice for cello bowing on that one?
No.
Okay, great. Wrist and fingers, real life. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, ready, and. We also have our chop, which is something you can do a lot with. This is how you kind of get that percussive sound. Your most basic chop, you're still forming the chord with your left hand, and you're really at the frog, really, really close to the hand, right? And you're dropping your bow to make that crunchy sound. And then when you lift up, that's where the pitches come back. That's your most simple chop. It's just on a quarter note rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and more or less, right? Well, I guess if we were to do it how we were written here, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Downbeat is the percussion, offbeat, upbeat is the sound of the pitch. Other bowing things you can do.
I would say before we move on, cellos, you will have to make some adjustments if you want to do a lot of chopping. And I just learned this in a workshop from Natalie Haas. You're going to want to take your thumb and hold it a little differently than you do. You want to be able to pull your bow almost back towards you. And you don't want your thumbs caught in there, because if you do too much of this, these strings are a lot thicker and heavier than a violin. So violins can get away. We got to adjust our hand a little bit or we're going to hurt. So you got to almost tilt the bow back towards you. My thumb is holding it now. And that would not be the normal position. Usually when I'm playing more orchestra style, I have my thumb in there a little bit more. But if you do that too much, it's gonna hurt. So you wanna get a good grip. And you hold it a little different so that you can get that. And it's almost like a stop, stop. So try doing that. I think chopping is very difficult to learn. I've been struggling with it myself, so don't feel bad if you can't do it yet. I think it's really hard. But it's literally just bringing your bow to a stop. Well, I did that too hard. And this part is almost not touching the string, but it's getting pretty close. So I have it more towards me than I would if I was playing nice. I have it way more upright if I'm playing nice. So I hopefully that helps you and doesn't hold you back. But I just learned that myself, and it's made it a lot easier since I've learned that.
Yeah, great, totally. Yeah, the strings are a lot thicker. That makes it a lot more difficult. But don't worry too much about hurting your instrument. These guys are a lot tougher than we think they are. So you can really really dig into the strings there for sure. You want to make that percussive sound apparent. So you can sort of start, if you get used to the chop, you can start to combine it with some chords in simple ways like. So what I'm doing there in slow motions is I'm going down, up, chop, up, down, oop. If I were to do it on just one chord to make it even simpler, just a D chord, down, up. Exactly. So up, da, da, up. If you were to sing it, it would be like a da 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 da. 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and. So you're playing on the 1, the and of 1, the and of 2, the 3, and then the and of 4. 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 Yeah.
Ah, that's hard.
So that's, and if you want to go back to just long pulls on the root, that works just as well. So let's stop there. That's kind of a lot. I want to, if you can, play along, or if you want to, or send me a recording of one of those rhythms on the left hand following this chord progression. We have simple quarter notes, long pulls, which will be half notes and whole notes, simple quarter note chops, or do that kind of more syncopated 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and syncopation, right? Syncopation is accents off the beat. Very syncopated rhythm. But that's a lot. That is a lot. Taking in those 4 different rhythms and building double stop chords for the first time is a lot to handle. So we're gonna stop there for now and play through it one more time, same way we played it before. We'll do...
I'll try to remember this time. I kind of botched up that first recording.
Oh, you're fine. We'll do melodies, melody,
and I'll do...
Yeah. Do-do-do. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and diggity 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and. Sheila was doing some different rhythms there, which is totally
Sorry,
awesome
I couldn't
and
remember
cool.
yours.
No, that's great. You'll find things that you like more than things that I teach you. A lot of the things that I find work for me don't work as well for other people. There's very incredible musicians out there who can do something so well one way, and then you go and you talk to them and you say, oh my gosh, that's so cool, I wish I could do it that way, but then they tell you that they can't do what you're doing your way. So whatever's most comfortable for you, you feel free to explore and express yourselves. Once you learn how to build these chords and follow a chord progression, then the rhythms that you make up will come. As long as you're changing your chords in time and you're keeping consistent tempo. It's when I learned how to chop and got better at it in different ways, I worked a lot with the metronome. I still work a lot with the metronome.
Definitely. I recommend that too. And I really don't feel like, as a cello player, I'm not really trying to be a violin player. If I want to be a violin player, I will pick up a violin. So don't feel like just because a guitar is doing something a certain way or a viola is doing something a certain way that's what you should have to do too. Find what works for let your instrument do the speaking. Not that said, I will now try to learn his rhythms a little better because that will challenge me to a new level. So learn what feels comfortable for you, but then rewind the video and try to do what Denon's doing or what I'm doing if it's different to you so that you get the full range. And eventually you're going to develop your own style in there. And that's really what we're going through. You want to, as a musician, figure out who you are on your instrument.
Your instrument identity.
Ah,
Yes. That's a great way to close it, right?
great way. Good job, Denon.
Nice, Sheila.
Happy practicing,
Oh,
people.
wait.
Oh, no, we can't do that. We'll do air.
Air high five.
I don't even know what that is.